Welcome to Inspired Chi Radio with your hosts AJ Jonczak and Tracy Sanjanetti. In this program, we explore what makes you a powerful soul by learning to connect with your guides and master your own energy. It's time once and for all to get rid of the obstacles in your life that are keeping you from being the true soul you are meant to be. Now, here are your hosts, Tracy and AJ.
Hello, and welcome to Inspired Chi Radio. My name is AJ Jonczak.
And this is Tracy Sanjanetti.
And together we are
Inspired Chi.
Thank you so much for joining us this evening. We are going to share with you a little bit about last week's call, because if you missed it, you missed a good time. So we're going to talk about that a little bit, and make sure you stay listening to the entire show this evening, because there are a couple of things in the works for our listening audience. But for right now, Tracy, would you like to share a little bit about last week's call?
So last week's episode, we had Greg Campisi from the Awaken Center for Human Evolution talking about his journey, his spiritual journey, to creating a nonprofit, a very successful expo, a wide community of healers, intuitives, authors, artists coming together to really support each other in their awakening and their spirituality. So it's very fascinating. If you didn't get a chance to listen, head back there. And congratulations to our winner of our last week's gift away, which was one of the copies of Greg's book, which was a compilation of all of different blogs from some of the healers from the community and their different perspectives on their journeys.
A really interesting cross-section of blogs that they had acquired, that they had amassed, I should say, because it talks about different types of energy work. So anybody who's interested or spiritually curious, we'll call it, it would be a great gift to receive, but a great gift to buy also. So you've got our contact information to reach out to the Awaken Center for Human Evolution and get yourself a copy. It's a good read.
Absolutely. So I am very excited to be presenting our guests for this evening. So because we're doing a little something different here at Inspired Chi Radio, we are flipping the script, and we actually don't have a guest at all. We have a very talented co-host that I get to interview about her journey, her modalities, and just hear a little bit of an insider's perspective, a professional perspective of what it's like traveling into people's past lives and Akashic records to help them heal and to help them remove blockages and move forward in their life, and just help for some entertainment sometimes, because that's also a lot of fun, getting down to that. So a lot of you may know this already, but I met Agnes probably about 14 years ago, and we've been practicing together we just celebrated. Yeah, absolutely. But we just celebrated our traditional practicing together for 10 years. So when I had first met Agnes, and I find that you always meet people when you're supposed to meet them, I had taken a very big risk in my life. I had left a job with a corporate salon entity, and I was pursuing something of my own business at the time, and I was scared to death. I was thinking I had just made a huge mistake, which we'd find out 3 years later, of course, but there are no big mistakes. And I was really second guessing myself. And this woman walked in, and she was second guessing herself that day. She had a bit of a scare just a day or two before coming into the salon. So this woman walked into the salon, and she said, "Oh my Lord, I thought that I had a stroke, but I didn't, and I'm out of the hospital, and I thought my hair's a wreck, and there's glue in it, and can you help me out today? Can you fit me in today?" And I met Agnes Jonczak. And next to one of the worst days of her life, and one of the scariest days of my life, and I feel like people meet each other at the exact right times. And we talked about our different interests and our spiritual journeys together, and she then became my mentor and introduced me to Reiki energy, taking a lot of the tools that I had used in my practices and intermingled them, and it led to a deep friendship and eventually a business partnership. But what many of you may not realize is Agnes's specialty as a hypnotherapist, as a past life regressionist, is going into your Akashic records to help you find out what is your story, what are your patterns, and how that can help you today, and why you might want to do that. So that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about what that means to the client, what that means to you, why someone might be interested in getting an Akashic reading, and how did you even approach the subject?
Well, and I have to tell you, one of the things I'm going to have to look at a little bit deeper in my own Akashic records is why I'm so freely telling people about walking into businesses with people who really were strangers at the time going, I think I've had this issue. I think that might be something I have to look at, maybe too much information. But yes, it's been an interesting journey along the way. And I have to tell you, sometimes you never know what that right moment is going to be to spark your interest in something, to meet the right person. And it is with Tracy and the work that we've done together that I chose not to sit on the sidelines anymore and started really practicing my gifts and sharing them much more. And it's been an interesting journey for the two of us. So thank you for choosing me karmically.
Thank you for choosing me karmically. And I am not going to wait one moment before I put you in the hot seat here.
Perfect.
So obviously, you had a life before me, right? So how did your spiritual path begin? How did you begin seeking a spiritual path outside of the religion you were raised in, feeling like you needed something more? And where did that start for you before leading you here to the Akashic Records and this whole realignment and the past lives?
You know, it's all of us have such interesting stories. We think they're really very commonplace, but really our stories are so fascinating from the beginning. I was raised in a fairly traditional Catholic home, and my mother was very, very devout in her faith, which I admire and respect. My father had fallen away from the church, but insisted that we were going to be raised in the tradition. And I had a lot of trauma growing up in my life. Some of it that is known to certain family members, some that is not. So apparently I have no problem sharing my hair problems and my
tell everything to your hairdresser.
You tell everything to your hairdresser. But for the sake of sensibilities to certain family members, you know, we'll just let it go that I had some trauma growing up. And I always remember thinking, how could God let these things happen? Why would God let this happen? There has to be something else. And I really became very disconnected from traditional religion because I found it lacking, because I just questioned, why could these things happen? So it really drove me on a spiritual journey. And as a teenager, a friend of my mother's had given me a book that she was reading, and she said, you might find this interesting. And again, she gave it to me out of the clear blue. There was no conversation about, oh, this is what I'm interested in. Do you have any books to read? It was a book by Edgar Cayce, and it was talking about past life regressions and reincarnation. And I remember thinking, this is so fascinating. But there was that traditional religious dogma in the back of my head saying, you're going to hell, you're going to hell. So I read it under the covers at night.
I mean, we all might be.
We all might be.
You never know.
But I read it under the covers at night. And full disclosure to everybody, which seems to be my tagline anymore, I write in all of my books. I always write in the margins. Tracy will often say to me, oh, I'm so glad to see what you thought about that. And I didn't have to ask you because you wrote in the book that you gave me. So I remember devouring that book and writing on every page and really fascinated. But I thought, I don't really know what this means. It was a little bit over my head as a teenager. You know, some of it was pretty heady stuff for me, since I had never been exposed to it before. But I devoured everything I could read. And I remember thinking, someday I'm going to have a past life regression. I want to know who I was and what brought me to this point in my life, where having suffered from trauma, and how did that happen? If God couldn't protect me, if God delivered this to me, why? And of course, all these years later, far from being a teenager, I recognize that we always have some responsibility for patterns that happen in our lives. That doesn't mean you go out and willingly ask to be abused, but there are patterns that develop throughout our lifetimes. And I have found that the best way for me to look at the patterns of my lifetimes that are still impacting me today is through past life regressions, through studying the Akashic records. Tracy, when you go into the Akashic records, it's a very broad view, because all of your lifetimes, every lifetime you've had, every choice you've made, it's all in there. And the Akashic records are the story of all your karma. And there is both negative and positive karma. And everybody will understand that there are many different, some very narrow views of what karma really is. I think karma is the pattern of our choices. And those choices in some cases take us closer to our soul's purpose, and some take us further away from our soul's purpose. And I took a very clear look over these many, many decades, and found that this work, especially when I do work for other clients, it tells me more about myself, because we all think our story is so unique to our listeners. Man, our patterns are not all that unique. So that's really how I got started, and what kept my interest all these years. It seemed like every time I was at a crossroads in my life, somehow or other, the subject of hypnosis, past life regressions, reincarnation, always wound its way back to me. There was always a conversation I would hear, and I think the universe does that. I truly believe that the universe conspires on our behalf. So when you're about ready to give up, you're going to get that message, and very often from an unlikely source.
Or from that messenger. And never underestimate that stranger that you might meet and how they may impact your life, whether it's just from their story, their lesson, that moment, or a long time lasting impact on your life, both positive and negative.
Just like karma.
So what was your first experience with past lives personally? Like, did you go, the first person that you went to see, was that a positive experience for you? Or was it something where it was like, okay, so this was interesting, but if I see myself doing this in the future, I might have done this differently, or it wasn't quite what I expected, or you were just completely blown away from the experience?
I actually, my first two experiences were almost identical, and really just kept me searching still, because I felt that they were not really what I was looking for. I'm an experiential junkie, and I openly say that. I've got the badge, I've got the t-shirt. I'm an experiential junkie. So I want to experience what's going on. And the first two people that I had seen, and this goes back, oh my gosh, this has got to be a good 25 years, 30 years maybe. Yes, I am that old. It could actually even be longer than 30 years now that I'm thinking about it. And I had seen somebody advertising that did past life regressions, and I thought, well, this is going to be fascinating. And by this time I had read so many books, and this is well before the internet, by the way, because yes, I am that old. And I went to this person thinking that I'm going to be regressed and I'm going to have the experience. And she handed me a pencil and paper and said, take notes. And I thought, okay, well, I'm not sure how I'm going to do that if I'm in regression from my understanding of what it was supposed to be like. And she went in, she laid on a massage table, and she, in hindsight, was accessing the Akashic records and was telling me about past lives. But that's not what I wanted, because I still didn't have the understanding at that time that anybody could read the Akashic records and access past lives. So I went about my business, and I thought, well, maybe that reader's just not very good, or maybe that's not the way you're supposed to do it. So I found somebody else a couple of years after that, and they did it the same way. And I remember thinking, I'm still missing something because I still want the experience. So fast forward a couple more years, and by this time, of course, the internet was a big thing, and I had access to Hay House Radio. So I actually dialed into Hay House Radio one time. I took a week's vacation because I was so intent upon getting to a better place, in my understanding and in my practice and in my experience. So I actually took a week's vacation because in addition to not always having good hair, apparently, I am also a geek and I love to research stuff. So maybe after the break, I'll tell you more about what that experience was like when I had my first actual regression that I experienced.
So when we come back, we're going to be talking more about past life regression, the Akashic records, what is deja vu, parallel glimpses, and how do we get that information out to you so that you can experience this as part of our gift away. So stay tuned to the end, where we'll let you know how you can enter to win this week's gift away and what that is.
Your favorite Voice America Talk Radio Network shows and hosts are in your car, outdoors, and wherever you need them to be. Listen anywhere. Get our mobile app for iPhone, BlackBerry, or Android at the Apple iTunes App Store, BlackBerry App World, or Android Market.
Tune in to The James Dentley Show and learn strategies for success in business and in life. Dr. James Dentley is a proven success coach who knows how to convert good into great. You'll find out from the achievers and leaders how they got to be the success stories that they are. And Dr. Dentley and his guests will give you the tools you need to follow in their footsteps. It's time to become the best version of you. Listen to The James Dentley Show, Fridays at noon Pacific Time, 3 p.m. Eastern Time, on Voice America Empowerment.
For teens, by teens, and about teens. Tune into the uncensored and unedited discussions with young adults on Express Yourself. Every Sunday at 3 p.m. Pacific Time and 6 p.m. Eastern Time on the Voice America Empowerment Channel. Smart, tenacious teen hosts and reporters from around the country speak up and speak out. Express Yourself. Visit the website for the show to find out more at expressyourselfteenradio.com. And check out the show on the Voice America Empowerment Channel every Sunday.
Where can you listen to some of the world's top life coaches ready to dish out success tips and entrepreneurial guidance? The Voice America Empowerment Channel will do just that. Whether it's personal growth, building a better business, or inspirational life stories, make it a daily habit to tune into our programs. From weight loss and personal branding to law of attraction and increased happiness, you'll find it every day at VoiceAmericaEmpowerment.com. The Voice America Empowerment Channel. It's your world. Motivate, change, succeed.
This is Inspired Chi Radio. To reach the program today, please call 1-888-346-9141. That's 1-888-346-9141. Or send an email to yourtruechi@gmail.com. Now, back to AJ and Tracy.
Welcome back to Inspired Chi Radio, and today we're talking in depth with AJ Jonczak, our co-host on the show, and also a very talented past life regressionist. Has turned around the soul realignment into a very personal experience for her clients and friends and her journey. But before we get into the first experience that you had that really opened you up to want to make this part of your path, part of your career, for those of us who are just joining in, can you tell us a little bit about what are the Akashic records?
Absolutely. The Akashic records are the book of life, and these are spoken of in many, many of the traditional religions and have been for thousands of years. So it's nothing new. It's nothing new age. It's nothing, witchy. It's nothing that has not been around and discussed for centuries and centuries and centuries. So the book of life, the book of all events that have been written and are to be experienced, it's the book about showing your story of your individual life. If you think of it as a giant library, that's very often used as an example of what it might look like. Some people in this day and age say it's a supercomputer. I like to think of it as going to your favorite convenience store, and if you're in the Northeast, that would be Wawa. Going to a Wawa where you meet everybody you know. Either they're getting gas or getting food, getting your coffee in the morning, everybody you know, and you hear every story. So it's a super wah-wah for all the information of your life, all the information about your patterns, your karma, your relationships. It's all in the Akashic Records. And the great thing is it's all accessible to you, And it's a wonderful resource to access when you're trying to determine what are the relationships you have, what are those patterns, why were you drawn to this person, why did you immediately have a dislike for this person, why are you drawn to go to England when nobody in your family has ever had a desire to go there and you really know nothing about it except you just booked a trip. Why are you dating the same person over and over and over again and the relationship never changes even if the person itself does? So this is the place where all of your own soul's wisdom is kept, and that's from the time your soul was created. So it's a pretty important place to go, a pretty important bit of information because it does it without judgment. And that's the incredible thing, Tracy, about the Akashic Records. When you view your story in the Akashic Records, you do it really from the soul's point of view. So you're looking at your own life and the lives of other people with much greater compassion and understanding.
One of the things that you and I were speaking of, prior to we actually started to record, was the fact that the Akashic Records can help you to take responsibility for some of the behavior, the activities, and the patterns that were on you, that maybe you caused some of your own misery, or someone else's misery in that respect. We also talk about, the light of our soul and all of these things, but we all know that there's a shadow side, which is completely normal. Everyone has both. So being able to recognize some of the places that maybe you were at fault and some of the places that you can do better, or, maybe, I don't want to say that you brought it on yourself, but where that falls karmically for you. So right before the break, we were also speaking about your first experience where you really felt that, you went under and you went on this journey, and then you came to a decision about how you were going to pursue that in your life. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
I can, and just because you all know about my bad hair days and my health, I'll share a little bit more. This is actually an intervention for me, I have a feeling, as opposed to education and empowerment about the Akashic Records, but it's all good. So I listened to this regression and had a very powerful experience. I think we very often, when we go for an energy healing of any kind, we think, well, I want it to be this way. Mm-hmm. I expect it to be this way. I hope that my past life I'm going to experience I was this. And of course, my experience has always been, oh, no. You're going to hear what you need to hear. So you can come thinking that you were Cleopatra, and perhaps you were. But
that's exactly who I was thinking.
I was thinking the same
reading
thing
my mind.
But you're probably going to find out you were a scullery maid.
Oh, that sounds more like it.
Well, but you learned the lesson that you were supposed to learn. So in this particular regression, while I had hoped that I was going to be in Ireland living this wonderful life, I immediately found myself in a Native American tribe. And the thing that didn't make sense to me was that this particular tribe, I always thought of as being from the Southwest, but in this regression, I had the very clear understanding that I was in northern part of the United States, and I thought it was like North Dakota. I thought it was, and it was snow, and very, very heavy snow. It was feet deep, and I was trying to escape, and I had the recollection and the awareness that I was escaping from people from my own tribe, and I couldn't understand why I was being pursued, but I was in fear of my life from my own tribe. But intellectually, because your mind, your conscious mind and your subconscious mind never shut off. They're always both working. So my conscious mind is trying to figure out, well, now intellectually, I always believed that Indian tribe, that Native American tribe, was in Southwest United States, predominantly in Arizona. What would they be doing in North Dakota? So I'm trying to intellectualize this while experiencing the fear of running for my life and being hungry and cold, and this is waist deep, and why are these people pursuing me? And in the regression, I came to the awareness of I had always had this aversion to anything Native American. I didn't like turquoise. I didn't want to visit. I didn't like drums. I just always had this terrible aversion to it and could never understand it, and have struggled with weight issues throughout my life. And here in this regression, I remember finishing the regression, emerging from the hypnosis and going, oh my gosh, I actually stole food from my tribe to save my own life. And because this was such a grievous occurrence, a grievous sin against the tribe, that I was being now chased because I was going to be killed. That was going to be my punishment. I had betrayed everything about the tribe, and this tribe had been relocated from Arizona. I checked this historically. The tribe had been relocated from Arizona to North Dakota. So it made sense that in the regression I was seeing the snow, and I was feeling the desperate hunger and the desperate cold. So I remember thinking, this wasn't something that was just told to me. This was something that I experienced, that I felt. I could feel the cold. I remember, and this was in the middle of the summer, I remember thinking, oh my gosh, I've never been so cold in my life. And it was a very profound experience because I recognized this, and this is not an uncommon occurrence. You think, how could this be? I don't intellectually know this to be true. But when you historically check it out, it's like, oh my goodness, this really did happen.
Conscious proof.
There's my conscious
that
proof.
You need to accept.
Right. And that's what I needed first, because I tend to intellectualize everything, and which is okay. But it was definitely a situation where I needed the emotional proof. I needed the knowing. And it really answered a lot of questions about some of my eating habits, but also what was that aversion I always held from my entire life to anything Native American. So yes, there's another glimpse into my life of patterns, and it was all about not feeling protected by the tribe and feeling that I had to take matters in my own hands and take care of myself, and at whatever cost that happened to be, and then pay the cost.
Interesting.
You never knew that.
I never knew. I've actually never heard that story, so that's interesting in itself. So you're having that experience.
Yes.
And you go home and do all the research that you can about it, try and explain it away, right? Because a logical mind will do that regardless. Before that time, you said you had an aversion and there was, certain things. Did you ever, and I'm obsessed with this, have a deja vu moment?
Always.
Like deja vu. Like, this feels familiar. I feel like I've been here before. I can't quite put my finger on it. Now, we talked about this a little bit before, and you've spoken about them being sort of like a parallel glimpse into other lifetimes, other experiences, and, things that could be going on concurrently.
Absolutely. We as humans want to measure everything. We want to control things. So the way we control it is by delineating time and distance. We're great at that, and we obsess over it. But it's funny, if we listen to the language that we use, time flies when you're having fun. Oh my gosh, the time went so quickly. I can't believe that vacation was over in the blink of an eye.
Her beauty is timeless.
Exactly. But if we don't like something, or we're trying to delay something, time takes on a different meaning. And we try to assign meaning to things because that's our ego saying, you are the master of your own creation and you will decide what this is. If we decide that time is meaningless in the sense of, I'm not going to worry about the minutes because then I might miss opportunities. If I focus so intently upon a task list that I have, and we all have task lists. I mean, let's not kid ourselves. But if we obsess about that as opposed to thinking, I've got all the time in the world. I absolutely have all the time in the world. I can choose to delay to do this, which frees up my time. I can choose this time to say, I'm going to experience something greater, which might just be peace of mind for 10 minutes. I might be able to take a walk for 10 minutes. So we are the ones who decide what time is. It's either good or bad based on whether we're having a good time or not, generally. And when we have those, but where time does not exist is in our dreams and in those deja vu moments. The veil is so thin, much thinner than we might think sometimes. And when we have those deja vu moments, they are very much glimpses into parallel lives. They're very much glimpses into past lives, future lives that are reminiscent of what's happening in the moment that you're in. So it happens all the time that you might be bogged down at work thinking, I don't know how to get through. I've got 3 days worth of work right here. And suddenly you're struck by an idea and you don't know where the idea came from. It's a memory of a past life where perhaps you were a bookkeeper in a factory in World War II and you're trying to increase production, and it's critical that you get every piece of artillery out the door, and how are you going to do this? There's no way you can do it. Oh, you change the assembly line. You do this, you do that. So you get these glimpses into other lives, and we call them deja vu because we see them, we experience this again. Take those moments very significantly, not just for what they bring you in the moment, but as your indication that you were directly tied to your Akashic records. Significant moments. And you also have those moments in your dreams. That's where the information's coming from. When you go into your dreams at night, when you astral travel, you're going into the Akashic records.
And for our guests, what is astral travel? How would that be defined?
It would be defined as going from the physical plane to the spiritual plane. If you have any experience with meditation, with yoga, if you're doing anything that's putting you in a state of bliss, and that could be anything. We think they have to be these great moments where we're praying in front of a temple or we were doing this or doing that. But any of those moments that connect you to your bliss, to your joy, where you are out of your humanness, out of your ego, and very much in the state of bliss, that's connecting to your Akashic records on one level or another. So giving birth to a child, anybody who's done that would say, not the nicest moments necessarily, but do you remember anything but the pure bliss of seeing your child for the first time? And that's such a profound moment. That's a sacred moment. And I wish people could understand that more of our moments could be sacred if we simply recognize the beauty of our own soul and more often, more consistently, look at the beauty of your own soul and claim that for yourself. And it's a hard lesson to learn. I get it. Hopefully you will find somebody like a Tracy Sanginetti who is your friend, your partner, your mentor, your conscience in some cases, saying, no, this is who you are. You're a divine soul. Go do your thing. I wish that for all of you.
This has been so much fun tapping into this a little bit, because for some of our audience members who have been at our retreats and have been able to experience a past life regression with Agnes, and those moments that could bring clarity to what's happening in your life right then, or being able to see many different lives and how they might be affecting you in that moment. It's really whether how you're taking it seriously for your own betterment, or if you're just doing it to say, oh, well, I always felt that I was connected. I was burned alive as a witch, and which I'm pretty convinced that I had at some point in time. It's really so fascinating. And one of the things that we're going to be gifting away at InspiredSheRadio.com this week is a guided meditation regression with AJ Jonczak. And you're going to do that meditation, and she'll tell you a little bit more about it, and write your own notes about, what you observed, what might be affecting you, what you really noticed or felt, whether that was bliss or fear or some other information that maybe you didn't previously have. And what AJ is going to do for one lucky member of the audience is she's going to sit down and have a Zoom with you and talk about that experience and some insight into your own Akashic records and how that may be affecting you today. Or like I said, maybe you just wanted to know a little bit about your past, how you got here, and who you were connected to, who your soul family is in other lives and this one. So
it's all good. It'll be fun. I'm looking forward to it.
It's going to be a lot of fun when we come back. Stay with us. We'll be back in just a moment.
Become our friend on Facebook. Post your thoughts about our shows and network on our timeline. Visit facebook.com/Voice America.
Where can you listen to some of the world's top life coaches ready to dish out success tips and entrepreneurial guidance? The Voice America Empowerment Channel will do just that. Whether it's personal growth, building a better business, or inspirational life stories, make it a daily habit to tune into our programs. From weight loss and personal branding to law of attraction and increased happiness, you'll find it every day at VoiceAmericaEmpowerment.com. The Voice America Empowerment Channel. It's your world. Motivate, change, succeed.
Connect with us, and we'll connect with you. The Voice America Talk Radio Network is on LinkedIn. Get the first word about happenings with the network, where our next live event will be, and what's up with our hosts. Look up Voice America on LinkedIn.
Are you finding your frequency? It can be described as that space between failure and success. It's the future of digital media. It's finding your voice. It's engaging topics, content, and ideas. Jeff and Ryan discuss the digital media space and all of its aspects. It's about making the mistakes, taking the chances, summoning the intestinal fortitude to step out of your comfort zone, and discovering what you can accomplish when you decide to try, decide to learn, decide that you have something to say, and find your frequency. Live Fridays at 12 noon Pacific Time, 3 p.m. Eastern Time on the Voice America Variety Channel.
This is Inspired Chi Radio. To reach the program today, please call 1-888-346-9141. That's 1-888-346-9141. Or send an email to yourtruechi@gmail.com. Now, back to AJ and Tracy.
Welcome back to Inspired Chi Radio, and I have with me today my co-host AJ Jonczak. We've been speaking about her journey to the Akashic records and how she has been able to utilize those records and information and feelings and bliss for her own life today, and how she helps other clients and friends access them so they can also experience that. But we always have that little part of our, I don't want to call it our higher self, I would call it maybe the other self. Okay? So the higher self says, seek, child, and you shall understand, and then you shall live this perfect life of beautiful karma. But the other self says, I don't know if I want to do this. This seems a little hokey. This seems a little, I'm scared. Am I going to cluck like a chicken? Am I going to not be able to get out of it? Am I going to say something that's embarrassing? How can I be relaxed around a stranger who's digging through my Akashic records? So what are some reasons that someone might resist this experience and not be able to get the best thing out of it from their other self?
So our ego tells us we always want to be in control. Our ego tells us, I don't want to be embarrassed. I fear being laughed at. I fear looking like I don't know what I'm doing. I fear. And so we very often will lurk in the background. We won't take a chance to experience it ourselves. There may be some family issues that the family's always said, oh, that's that kind of stuff. That's witchcraft, that's sinful, that's this, that's that. And a lot of the stuff we carry through many lives. Any kind of programming, if you hear something often enough, you tend to believe it to some degree. There are people who misunderstand what hypnosis is all about and what regression is all about, and they are afraid of getting stuck. Let me be very, very clear. Hypnosis is not done to you. Hypnosis is facilitated, but you allow it. Past life regressions are not done to you. They are facilitated, and you allow it. And you'll allow it because you are curious. You'll allow it because you are seeking answers. You will allow it because you find it relaxing. You will allow it because you think, I've tried so many other things. Maybe my answer is here. So they're the reasons that you will allow it, and then you will have a successful regression, and you will have a successful journey into the Akashic Records because you allow it. I kept getting this acronym in my head when I was thinking about our broadcast tonight, and the word is ask, and the acronym that I kept hearing in my brain was awareness seeks knowing. So when you have that awareness of, I'm looking for something, I'm longing for something, I'm missing something, I desire something, you will seek that which is what you know to be true, to be complete, to be part of what's going to be your bliss. So you will allow it when you choose to allow it. And being curious about it is a perfectly viable reason to have a regression, to have somebody go into the Akashic Records for you to go in yourself. It's all viable.
So what would you say to a client who is either being regressed by you in person, online, or doing this home regression meditation that we're gifting away at the end of the episode? When they say to you, how do I know that it's just not my imagination? How do I know that this movie that's playing in my head as we do this isn't just pieces of little things my subconscious picked up along the way here? Maybe that dog was on the corner of my eye on the street and I hadn't quite turned around, and that's why he's facing him. That's why he is who he is.
So everybody's experience is going to be different, and there are people that Tracy and I have worked with, and we've done group regressions, and it's been fascinating. Everybody's experience has been different. We've seen people who have they go through the regression, and when they are emerged, they just cry. They are so emotionally moved, even if they can't put the words to it and say, no, I'm not crying about anything in particular. I just feel the need to release. Emotion. Yes. There will be people who will say, I know what the answer is to that problem I've been really struggling with. There will be people who have entire scenes play out in front of them. And there are people who are saying, I'm not sure I experienced it. I heard everything you said. Well, you should, And I saw a few things, but I think that was just my imagination running away with me. Your imagination is one of the best tools you have, because as humans, again, and we cannot turn our conscious mind off, we're still trying to analyze what we're seeing in front of us. And sometimes that's the missing piece, your imagination, to get you over the hump. If immediately what pops into your head is an image of an old sailing vessel, an old ship, is it not something in your conscious awareness that's going to say, oh, a ship, wow, that's really old. I bet that would be really, a rough sail. It's gosh, it looks really old. And that's what spurs you further into this journey, further into the Akashic Records. Don't doubt yourself. What you experience in the regression, what you experience in the meditation that we are gifting away is true and natural for you. It is absolutely what you are supposed to experience.
For our friends out there that are going to be listening to the guided meditation that will be on inspiredchiradio.com, what is something that can make their experience better?
That's a great question, because, again, everybody's experience is going to be different. I would say that when you, regardless of whether it's when you're going to listen to the meditation for the first time, and listen, you can listen to this meditation as often as you like, but also when you're going to sleep each night, set the intention that you will easily enter your Akashic Records, and that you'll remember the details and you'll be able to understand the messages. Just set that intention, and relax and recognize that you can't be stuck in the records or in your dreams as you astral travel, and that your highest guides are always working on your behalf. You're never alone. You are always so divinely protected in life in general, more so than you might realize or understand, but also in the Akashic Records, especially in the Akashic Records. And by all means, if you like ritual like I do, grab your crystals, grab your essential oils, say your mantra to your favorite ascended master, and with a little practice and relaxation, you'll be able to have a very good experience. And don't beat yourself up. Your experience is what it's going to be. If you follow the meditation and your experience is you only see colors, my question to you would be, what color? And if you saw purple, I'd say, well, let's talk about your spiritual practices. Let's talk about your seventh chakra and what is your practice? What are you doing? What are you seeking in your spiritual knowledge?
And what does that color represent to you? Immediately when I think purple, I think royalty.
Royalty. And I think there is something when we recognize the sacred in ourselves. I think we, at that point, from my experience, that's the point that we say, I will never undervalue myself again. I had this awareness today when I was thinking about our broadcast tonight, that I may have come late to this party that we call enjoying life, but I've had a heck of a time, and I'm going to party the rest of my life away. And by that I mean in a responsible
way,
spiritual manner,
but with permission to give yourself. And I think that's what a lot of it comes into.
Absolutely, give yourself permission to celebrate yourself. And so many of us who have issues with self-worth, self-doubt, honest to goodness, give yourself permission to believe that you are valued, that you are loved. Give yourself permission to experience the fullness of this meditation, and perhaps seek some additional work with Inspired Chi, because we've come a long way ourselves in our own life's journeys, and we get it, and we're here to help you. Don't be late to the party of your own life.
I think one of the things that I know that we often say to each other, to our clients, to our friends is, we're just here to meet you where you are. Where you are now and where you're going, and to walk along that path, and we'd be honored to do that with you. Now, prior to this broadcast, I know that you had received a message for the collective.
I did, and it was interesting because normally when you are working in the Akashic Records, you get the permission from the soul of the client you're working one-on-one with. And there are sometimes you work in tandem. It will be a couple that comes in and they want to see their relationship across time and space. But I thought, let me just tap into the Akashic Records and see what the message is for the Inspired Chi Radio audience. And I have to tell you, I'll read it to you because I did take notes. I'm always taking notes. And this was the message, and it was very clear. And the message is, you can't see the forest for the trees. Your answers have always been with you from lifetime to access. There is something here for you in this work, and you can experience joy. What was the last honest and true moment you took to greatly admire your soul and its abilities? To go inward isn't difficult necessarily. Taking the information and showing compassion and understanding for yourself is the first step. Claim your soul's wisdom. Create the life you want by letting go of that which no longer serves you. Ask equals awareness, seeks knowing. Seek and you shall find. Bright blessings.
I just want to thank you, AJ, for being our honored guest today, for sharing so much information and insight when it comes to our souls across time, our karmic relationships, and how that has played out in your life.
Listen, I'm the poster child for looking at relationships over time. And as my mother, God rest her soul, would have always said, well, we're always the hero in our own story now, aren't we? And of course, when we look at everybody else's role that they've played in their in our lives, and we are very adept at looking at where they have been inconsistent, where they have been unsupportive, where they have been less than. I am the poster child of being able to say, I can clearly see your patterns. It has taken me a long time to find the right modality, the right practice that is a combination of that compassion and understanding. And that's studying the Akashic records and sharing that. I don't want anybody else to be late to the party. I want everybody to party like they're rock stars. Not Keith Richards. He hasn't aged well, but other rock stars perhaps. But
no offense, Keith.
No offense, Keith. So thank you for choosing me karmically, and thanks to our audience.
Thank you for choosing me karmically. And speaking of karma and relationship patterns that we tend to fall into time and time again, next week we have back here Monday at 7 p.m. we have Carrie Tuminia, our dating and loving coach. She's an expert in many, many modalities, much healing work. She is very versed on your self-love, what's standing in the way of romantic love in your life, and much, much more. And she has a book coming out.
She does have a book coming out.
No More Bad Dates.
No Bad Dates. Consciously creating a better life for ourselves. That is not the exact title. No Bad Dates is part of the title, but this may be a very interesting segment, because I think while Tracy and I are busy taking notes, Carrie's just it's like, okay,
I'm on the wait list for the book already.
Right. So yes, please join us, because it all does start with loving yourself, and that's very hard for some of us. But man, Carrie is really going to be able to open our eyes, I think, and really bring it. What a gift she will be bringing to all of us. And so for all of us at Inspired Chi Radio, for all of our clients, our friends, our family who support us, thank you so very much. We are very grateful. We're having the time of our life. Head over to Inspired Chi Radio for our weekly giveaways, our Chi forecasts, our interactive readings. There's a lot going on with InspiredChiRadio.com, and it's all yours for the taking. So you are the gift that we gave ourselves tonight. Thank you for showing up for us, supporting us, and great blessings to all of you.
Thank you so much for listening this week to Inspired Chi Radio. Be sure to join your host, Tracy Sanginetti and AJ Jonczak, for another edition next Monday at 4 p.m. Pacific Time and 7 p.m. Eastern Time on the Voice America Empowerment Channel. Stay inspired.